this Israel. No, I will maybe later.
Okay, so tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, Elul, and we also planning Shacharit tomorrow. Tomorrow is once per month on Rosh Chodesh. So it's 7:40, and then after Shacharit, maybe we can learn something. And Yosef also wants to come. Tomorrow. And tomorrow, so tomorrow there is a lesson of Rabbi Grossberg in Russisch, 12:30. And in the evening, we have Hebrew, and the topic is going to be about Mazal and Siman. We will discuss it because previous time, yes. So on Thursday, not on Thursday.
Yes, we change for Tuesday.
Because on Thursday there is some trip that we want to attend.
If you want to go, it will be like an excursion to city. It's a name Fulda.
Oh, it's far.
And you know, it's far, and it will be from Nuremberg. This
Group
from organization from Fürth. They will be together in Nuremberg and goes together or just on train. And in Fulda, it will be when
cultural program.
Yes, they will come. With the first moment, it will be like a dinner in community, Fulda Jewish community, and then it will be excursion and talks, and then again this group.
Second dinner.
To Nuremberg. Yes, like this. Yes. Yeah.
Like we did it in some city called Ansbach, Ausbach. I don't remember.
Something like this in Ansbach. Yes, it was. But it was bus trip.
There's a haba community.
It's.
Yes.
I'm not sure if there is a community, but there is a synagogue and there are several Jewish people. So they not officially community, but it's a community technically. Yes. That's what they told me, because I was asking them the same question. So tomorrow Hebrew in the evening, and on Mittwoch this movie Paddington. So this is about this bear, which is very kind and not angry, and very open to the world. So I like this character a lot, and it's very actual today, because sometimes I open in the news and everyone talking about death. I don't know what's interesting about it. So on Thursday we not going to be here, unfortunately. Что? Okay, so we'll start. So previous time we discussed something not connected directly to the 13 principles of faith. We talked about to ger, stranger, if someone is coming to our community from the other place, how we treat this person, mitzvah of love, but this love doesn't grant equal rights. So it was our topic, and it's very connected to the situation with immigrants that we have, because maybe immigrants have a lot of rights, so maybe this is the problem. It was just my idea. That we discussed this on previous time. So we're coming back to 13 principles of faith. Mama. So we learned first that God exists, only one God, doesn't have physical body, and He existed forever and will exist forever. So now we in the second part. We end in the second part. we need to serve the God and now someone else. There is a prophecy, and Moshe Rabbeinu is the biggest prophet, and the teaching that we have from Moses, from Moshe, is from the heaven, min hashamayim, from the God. This is the 8 and the 9. So now we end in the 9. Torah lo titchalef. So we will repeat the 9. So the Torah, the teaching that we have, is from Hashem and not from someone else, and therefore this help. Because of that, we cannot add something to this Torah, because the Torah is from Hashem and not from us. And if we add in something, it is not from Hashem; it's from us. But also we cannot omit something from the Torah. Both in the Tanakh, written Torah, but also in the law that we receive it, oral law. As it said, you should not add to the Torah. In written Torah, it said, and you should not omit something from the law. So, previous time we discussed the question of Abarbanel. So today we answer this question, and we will go on further. So, for example, we are now working with Orthodox Judaism, but there is also Reform Judaism and Liberal Judaism, so they are more open to changes. So this is the question: are changes possible? So Abarbanel brings several examples where he finds that changes are possible. So we will repeat it real quick. So what is the reason that Rambam saying that Torah cannot change? And because Torah Elohit Shlema, this is the law from God, and this law is doesn't have any flaw, בתכלית השלמות. והדבר השלם לא יקבל תוספת. So if we have something ideal, we cannot add something to it because it's already finished. ולא החיסרון. And also we cannot take something from it. ולזה אומר אני שלא ישתנה בשום זמן. And because of this, says Rambam in the book מורה נבוכים, that Torah could not be changed. וכבר ייפול בזה הסופק אינו מועט, והוא שאם היות שלא ישתנה התורה מצד הנותן ולא מצדה בעצמה, כפי שלמותה כבר רשאי שיפול בזה השינוי מצד המקבל. So Abarbanel offers to distinct between the person that gives the law and the person that receives the law. מצד הנותן. So if we're talking about the God is ideal, so his teaching is ideal, but the person that receives the law is not ideal, so theoretically the law could change because the person that received this law is changing. And the examples that Abarbanel brings here, Adam HaRishon. So for example, the first human being, Adam, he had some special mitzvah not to eat from this baum, Etz Hadat Tov Vara, and it was a mitzvah only for him, but for the next generation, this mitzvah doesn't exist. So we see already the change. And also, Adam could not eat meat, flesh. But after Adam, Noach already could eat meat. So we also see the change of law. But also there is 7 mitzvot of Noach. Maybe you know this list?
So not to murder, no idolatry,
Stealing, Birkat Hashem, to curse God, and 6 ever min achai, forbidden to eat something that is alive, and the last is to organize the judgment system. Oh, we remember it, thank God. And also after Noah, there was Abraham, and he have a new commandment, milah. I keep forgetting it in English. Circumcision. Oh, right? Brit milah. It's hard to pronounce. Yes, because Beschneidung. Oh, Beschneidung. And also there is a family name Schneider. Is it connected? Schneider. Beschneidung. Oh, good. Olam Moshe said mitzvot. To cut something. Oh. So it makes sense. Olam Moshe received mitzvot acharot, but also Moses had other mitzvot, and we see from this historical perspective that even that the law is from God, the law could also change because the person that receives the law is changing every generation. And he gives a beautiful example with the doctor. כמו שאברהם מובהק ייתן הנהגה דקה אל החולה בתחילת חוליו, ואחרי כן בזמן ירידה הפה עשה הוא הפה שהתיר. For example, if there is a person that got sick and the doctor saying to the person, you should do that and you should not do this prescription, you should take these pills. But after the person feels better, so doctor is saying you should not take these pills anymore. So the fact that doctor changed his mind, does this says that the first law was wrong? Of course, it doesn't prove it, right? Just the situation is changed, and the person that receives the law is changed. So, and therefore, the doctor changing his prescriptions. Very musical person. Ну, конечно, она разобьет стекло этой ложки. Упсала. Хрупкая. Про доктора? Так мы это уже учили.
Я знаю, но мне хочется еще раз.
Как по-немецки, может быть? Доктор, я не знаю, как доктор по-немецки. Арц. О. А больной кранк. I'm trying to translate it to German. Ну, что если есть больной человек, и доктор выписывает ему лекарства, а потом доктор говорит, что поскольку ты выздоровел, то тебе больше не нужно лекарства. Так это то же самое, как изменение Торы. Это же не доказывает, что указание больному было неправильным. Просто сначала он был больной, потом он выздоровел. Правильно? Так теперь этот закон больше не нужен. Адам Аришон был в определенной ситуации. So the same thing applies in Torah. Adam Harishon was in certain circumstances, and therefore he had this special mitzvah not to eat from the certain tree. But after the situation changed, he doesn't have this mitzvah anymore. So the law could change, right? Что, непонятно? Так практически мы обсуждаем, меняем мы Тору или нет.
Да, я понимаю.
So the practical question is, could we change the law in the Torah? So if some law we find that we don't understand it, for example, so maybe we could change it, theoretically. This is the question.
I'm just now understand it.
And the culture changed, the mindset changed, so maybe the law also changed, right?
Yeah, maybe no.
So first of all, Barbanel shows us that it's possible that the law is going to change. It is possible. So already he disagreed with the Rambam. כן העניין משפטי ירדה ומצוותיה שאינו מהם בטל שיקרא בהשם שינוי וחילוף כפי המקרים לצורך הזמנים. So Barbanel saying that it's possible that the Torah, the law of Torah would change because the person that receives the law is changing and the times they are changing. Is the song by Bob Dylan. וגם הראיה שהביא הרב לבאר העיקר הזה מפסוק לא תוסף עליו ולא תיגע ממנו ובא להזהיר על נשיאות המצוות כי אם תכונת עשייתה שלא נלמוד במדי עבודה זרה באופן עבודתם ועשה תוספת או גירעון במצוות התורה כמו שאיר עליו פשט הפרשה. And this proved that Rambam saying from the written Torah, לא תוסף עליו ולא תגרע ממנו. It doesn't prove because this talks about us, that we, people, could not change by ourselves the law, but it doesn't prove that God could not change. Yes? If God wants to change, he could change, right? ואם יהיה כדבריו, איך אמרו חז"ל, בדין מתאים לעקור דבר מן התורה בשב ואל תעשה. And now Abarbanel brings some examples from the oral Torah that we see also that the law is changing, and it's called Shev ve'al Taseh. For example, when we have some mitzvah, for example, we need to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and the sages could say that in some situation you should not blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So in this case is on Shabbat, right? Shabbat. The law says that Shabbat, that you should not blow shofar on Shabbat. So this is the example when the older law to blow shofar is omitted in some situation. So this is from Talmud. So it's hard to say that the sages from the Talmud they did something wrong and transmitted this trespassed this law, right? And another example that he brings, Shlomo tiken eruvin ve'yadayim. So the law of eruvin, for example, eruv tchumin, that we cannot go on Shabbat from our city to Alpayim Alma, and also Yadayim, Netilat Yadayim that we are doing, it's also new laws. It's not from written Torah. Aim Novar, and this is law by the king Shlomo, Zalomo. Aim Nomar Shamar Shlomo Alot Tosif. Should we say that Shlomo that Shlomo trespassed this law, that you should not add something to the Torah? And another example, כל המועדים עתידים להתבטל חוץ מפורים ויום הכיפורים. There is a midrash that says that when Mashiach will come, all the holidays would be omitted except two holidays, which is Purim and Yom Kippurim. So this topic we will discuss later when we will learn about the times of Mashiach. But anyway, we see the example that the law will change in the future. So we see that this principle looks like doesn't work. So why Rambam insists that that this principle exists? This is the question. And also the last example is about the names of months. In the written Torah, there are no names for months. It's only the numbers. Chodesh Harishon, Chodesh Sheni, Chodesh Shvi'i. First month, second month, seventh month. Tishrei is seventh, right? The next month with the holidays, Tishrei is the seventh, number 7, right? Huh? I'm saying in the written Torah, it's called the 7th month. So in the written Torah, we count from Nisan for some reason. So when we get these names of where we get them? From Babylon, right? So after the destruction of the first temple, Jews went to exile to Babylon, and there when they came back, they bring these new names for the months. In the times of Ezra. Shlomo, Ezra. Скажи Ezra. וזה ביטול מצווה היא. So this is the change in the Torah. שונה בפירוש לא תוסיף עליו לא תגרע ממנו, כדברי רב אין משם הרע לציות התורה, כי הכתוב לישראל אין שנה לא נישא. But he answers with this question that even that we cannot change, maybe God can change the Torah. So there is no proof that God could not change the Torah. So now we need to understand this principle of faith by Rambam. And I had this, so I have it here. In order to understand Rambam, we will learn Rambam in another place in the book called Moreh Nevuchim. Maybe you're familiar with this book?
It's the guide of the perplexed, yes?
Perplexed, yes. Perplexed.
Wow.
Yes. So this is the letter that he wrote to his student. Very long letter. It's a book. So here he talks about the topic called Zaken Mamre. Zaken Mamre is someone that when we have Sanhedrin, and Sanhedrin have some decree that the law is like this, but it could be that some rabbi disagrees with the decision of most other rabbis. So, and if this private rabbi teaches other people to behave in his way and not in a way like Sanhedrin decided, it's called Zaken Mamre, and there is a punishment for this rabbi. Omar ki kasher yidar ha'eloha, so he talks about this law here. כי כאשר ידע האלוה יתברך שמשפטי זאת תורה יצטרכו בכל זמן לפי את חלף המקומות והחידושים לפי הנראה מעניינים להוסיף על כתוב מצוותם הזהיר מן התוספת ומה מן המגרעות. So because God knows that the law of Torah needs to be changed based on the time change and the place changed and other possible changes, we need to add something to the law or omit something from the law because it's understandable logically. Therefore, God says that we cannot add something and we cannot omit something. And God said in the Torah, "Lo tosef alav velo tigra mimenu." You should not add to the Torah, and you should not take away something from the Torah. Why? Because if we would change something within the Torah, then people would say that the Torah is not from God. Therefore, there is a law that we should not add something and we should not omit something. But from the other hand, it is permitted for the sages of generation, which are Beidin Gadol, Sanhedrin, לעשות סייגים. סייג is fence. It means to add some new law in order to preserve the old law, because they see that people getting really, really close to trespass some law. So they add in new law that people would be at bigger distance from trespassing the law. So it's called siag. And Sanhedrin could do that. כדי לקיים משפטי התורה האלו בעניינים שיחדשום לשמור התורה ישיר הישגים ההם לנצח. So the intention of Sanhedrin when they add in new law is to preserve the old law. So this is why it is possible, וכן הותר להם גם כן לבטל קצת מעשי התורה ולהתיר קצת הנזכר ממנו לפי עניין אחד ולפי מאורע אחד, אבל לא שיעמידוהו לדורות. And also it is possible that Sanhedrin could omit something from Torah in certain short time situation, but not for generations to come. כמו שביארנו בסדר פירוש המשנה בהוראת שעה. So this is the term called הוראת שעה. הוראת שעה, so הוראה is from this root Torah, the teaching for one time only, הוראת שעה. So it is possible that the sages would change the law in one specific situation, the sages of Sanhedrin, only Sanhedrin. בזאת הנהגת תתמיד התורה האחד והתבטל כל זמן. And because of this change, all the Torah would continue to exist all the time and in all the situations. ולו היה זה העניין החלקי נמסר לכל אחד מן החכמים. So if we say that it is possible to change the Torah in order to preserve the Torah, so theoretically we could say that everyone could do that, right? I want to add the law. For example, I'm like the rabbi within the community where I work. I could add some new law, but it's not work like it. Only Sanhedrin could add this law. So Rambam explains why. ולו היה זה העיון החלקי נמסר לכל אחד מן החכמים. And if we would give this opportunity to change the law for every wise man, היו בני אדם נפסדים לרב המחלוקת והסתבכות הדעות. Then everyone would be disagree with each other, מחלוקת, because everyone would say, I want this new law, and other person would say, I want this new law. So it would be chaotic. Therefore, we need that the law would remain the same law, and only Sanhedrin could change this in certain part. And therefore, there is a punishment for someone that disagree with Sanhedrin, because if everyone could disagree with the Sanhedrin, then we would not have a law. We would have anarchy, right? Anarchy. Anarchia. Anarchy. So basically, Rambam is explaining himself that what he said in this Yesod Ad She'i in ninth principle, it's called He'etek, HaTorah Mu'ateket Met HaBoreh. So the Torah that we have is from the God, and therefore we cannot add something to this Torah. But actually, it doesn't say that we could not add the law of the sages, right? I'm just remembering now that he talks about it in the other place. So I'm also looking for it. No. So he talks also about this question in the book Mishneh Torah on the example of milk and meat law, that we cannot combine it. So he asks, הואיל ויש לו בדין לגזור ולאסור דבר המותר ויעמוד איסורו לדוברות, וכן יש להם להתיר איסורי תורה לפי שעה, מהו זה שהסגיר התורה לא תוסיף עליו ולתקרמן. So he asks the same question. We see that Beidin could add a new decree and to say that something is forbidden, even if the Torah says that it's permitted. And this new thing, new isur, would be for all the generations to come. And also, Beidin could lehatir, could say that what Torah said is forbidden, it is permitted for this one time only. Therefore, that it is a question: what is what means the Torah when Torah says you should not add something to the law and you should not omit something from the law? And this law says that we cannot add something to the written Torah and to the oral Torah also. So how can we understand this contradiction? So we have this law in the written Torah. You should not cook gdi. Gdi is tzige in the milk of his mother. So the oral Torah explains what is the meaning of this verse. So it is forbidden to boil together milk with meat. Which meat? Bein basar be'ema. It doesn't matter if the meat is from house animal or from the wild animal. אבל בשר העוף מותר בחלב אין Torah. But the law of Torah says that if we have chicken, for example, fogel, so I can cook together fogel meat with milk. Based on the law of Torah? No. אם יבוא בית דין ויתיר בשר חיה בחלב, הרי זה גורע. So for example, if בית דין say that we can cook together meat of animal with the milk, it would be considered גורע. גורע, so he omits law from the Torah. ואם יאסור בשר העוף, but if בית דין will say that meat of chicken, of fogel, of the bird would be forbidden because it's the same like the tzige, and it's forbidden by the law of Torah. It would be considered that we add something to the Torah and it is forbidden. But אם אמר בשר העוף מותר מן התורה ואנו נאסור אותו ונודיע לעם שהוא גזרה, but if בית דין would say that the law of Torah saying that the meat of the bird we can mix with the milk, but we want to make it forbidden because it's our decree, because we want that people would be at more distance. Yes, we want to add the fence. ויאמרו העוף מותר, מפני שלא נתפרש כך, החיה מותרת שלא נתפרשה, because if the law would distinct too much, that the person could be misunderstood, and someone could say that Torah saying only tzige, so it's only tzige, and everything else is permitted. Like we see that the bird is permitted, so the other house animals is also permitted. Person could say it, and Torah forbids only tzige. Therefore, to prevent this understanding, but a person could go further. ויבוא אחר, so the other person would say, okay. ויבוא אחר לומר, הבשר מותר בחלב פרה. So we was discussing about the flesh. So also it is the question which milk we use to cook this food, right? So Torah says b'chalev imo, in the milk of his mother. So for example, if I would take meat of tzige and I would take milk from the cow, so maybe it is permitted. ויבוא אחר לומר אף בחלב העז שאינה עמו מותר. And if this is permitted, so the other person could say that the Torah forbids only his mother's milk, but the milk of the other tzige that is not his mother's is permitted. לפיכך נאסור כל בשר בחלב אפילו בשר עוף. Therefore, the sages says that everything is forbidden because people could be confused. So the law should be more strict. This is a very interesting approach. אין זה מוסיף אלא עושה סייג לתורה וכן כל כיוצא בזה. So Rambam saying it's not considered that the sages adding the law within the Torah. So the Torah law remains the same, אלא עושה סייג, but it's considered סייג, that we making fence surround the Torah, and in another examples like Abarbanel said about shofar in Shabbat. So Torah says you could and you should blow shofar on Shabbat, but the sages says if it would be allowed, something bad could happen. We need to learn which exactly. Therefore, sages says you should not blow shofar on Shabbat. So this is the new rabbinical decree, and it's not considered adding to the Torah. So basically, Rambam saying that the Torah that we have from God is something ideal, and this could not be changed. So this is the principle of faith. But we could add law to help us to observe this in a specific way, only Beidin, and and also this Beidin could omit some law in some circumstances, but Beidin could not omit a law in any situation, right? So this is the Ikar Hatshii.
Gross.
Oh, wow. So groß. Ja. So groß.
Gross. Sehr gross. Okay, so we can discuss some questions if there's any, and then we go to the next tense. Вопросы?
Я на уровне.
So as you said in the beginning that the laws from Babylon are not valid anymore because there's no garden.
This was the question of Abba Banel, yes.
Yeah. So it's the same with the temple and the offerings. But at the moment, there's no temple to bring offerings.
Yes. So
it's not omitted for this reason, but it's suspended for a while.
It's technically, for example, if I don't have tefillin, so I could not put on tefillin, but it doesn't mean that this mitzvah doesn't exist, right? So if I don't have a temple, I could not bring sacrifice, technical reason for it. So it doesn't mean that the law doesn't exist. The law remains the same, and in the book of Mishneh Torah, Rambam wrote every law, so he have the law of sacrifices also, yes? And this question of Abarbanel, so we're talking about the law of Moses, right? So Moses was on Mountain Sinai and he received the law from God to our nation. So we're talking about this law. What was before this law, it's not, I don't think it's that relevant. It's connected. So it's connected a little bit to this topic, Gid Hanashe. Gid Hanashe Hulin Bnei Yaakov. So for example, we have mitzvah Gid Hanashe. You know what is this mitzvah? Gid Hanashe. Gid Hanashe. There is a story in the book of Bereshit about Yaakov, when he was struggling with some person, Ish, in the night. And during the struggle, Yaakov was hurt in his leg. And the Torah says, because of this story, yes. So this law is called Gid Hanashe. So when we doing shita to the animals, so we need to put away some part of the leg. So on one hand, we have this mitzvah in the book of Bereshit, and we could say that we observe this mitzvah because of this story with Jacob. But on the other hand, we could say we observe this mitzvah because at Mount Sinai we received this law that we should not eat it, and therefore we observe this law. So we can look at it with two possibilities. So the question is how to understand it correctly. And I remember that there is a Mishnah about it. נוהג בתורה ואינו נוהג בטמאה, רבי יהודה אומר אב בטמאה, אמר רבי יהודה, ולא בני יעקב נשא גיד הנשב אדם בימי הטמאה מותרת לו, אמר לו בסיני נאמר אין אשר נכתב במקומו. So there is a discussion about very interesting discussion about it's so if I will eat any kosher animal, like a cow, for example, with Gid Hanashe, so I'm trespassing one law, Gid Hanashe. But, for example, if I would eat non-kosher animal and eat with Gid Hanashe with it, so the question is, how many law have I trespassed? One law or two laws? So this is the question. this is a discussion in Mishnah. So the first Tana saying, "Eino noheg bitma." So if I'm eating non-pure animal like Schwein, Ferkel, Schwein. А как Schwein делает? Да. Schwein. So if I'm eating Schweinfleisch, and I also am eating Gid Anashe within the Schwein. So the first Rabbi is saying that I trespass only one law, which is Schwein, and not the law of Gid Anashe. And the second Rabbi says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Av Bitmea. If I eat Schwein with Gid Anashe, so I trespass two laws. So, for example, when we had Sanhedrin and there was a punishment, so I should receive punishment twice.
It's free with the pork. So it's you're eating pork, you're eating blood, and
So technically, but okay, if I make it kosher without blood. So if I put it on the fire, so all the blood is boiled and it is not liquid anymore, so it doesn't have blood. Oh, so Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda tries to prove his point that that flesh is all comes with Gid Anashe, so it's two. Isur. It's forbidden for two reasons. And Rabbi Yehuda said, because Rabbi Yehuda read the book of Bereshit, and he said that the sons of Jacob already had this Isur. They already could not eat Gid Anashe even before the revelation on Mount Sinai, right? But they didn't have the law about the Schwein, for example, right? Because the law about the animals which are kosher and are not, which are pure and which are impure, it's in the book of Vayikra. So it's after Shmot, and Mount Sinai was in Shmot, right? But the other sages explaining to the Rabbi Yehuda, B'Sinai Ne'emar, so the law of Gid Anashe we received at the Mount Sinai, but why we see this law written in the book of Bereshit, Ela shenichtav bimkomo, because we explaining the source of this law. So this law is to remember this story that Jacob had, but when we had this law we received it at the Mount Sinai and not before. So I think this is how Rambam understands that the whole law that we have was given in the Mount Sinai, and what was before. So the same question we could ask about the Brit Milah. So it's hard to say that Abraham didn't have Brit Milah. So it's a question. So we have to make Brit Milah because we as a nation made a covenant with God on Mount Sinai. This is why we obligated to make Brit Milah. And Abraham, he is like our forefather. He made his own covenant with God, but his covenant was not for all the future generations. Maybe this is question. Good question. I'm not sure about it. So this is a good question by Barbanel.
She wants to ask you what is your name.
Mijn naam is Noah. En dein naam? Noah en Rita. En mama. Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she knows our names, but it's very new for her.
Yeah.
En hoe is Rosa? Hoe is Rosa? Mama. Hoe is papa?
А папу как зовут?
She was so sweet on Erev Shabbat. She was always. Did you hear what she
Singing.
She was singing, and she was singing. Ma yeh yom, ma yeh yom, ma yeh yom.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. Wow.
Wow, yeah. It was really, and she always repeated it.
Yeah, I was hearing only in the melody.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
no words.
Well,
So she was speaking Hebrew. Wow. She's so talented.
It's interesting that she was singing in a proper scale at the Kabbalat Shabbat, but on the Ma'ariv it was a little different, so he was cacophony. But it was a surprise for me that he learned this scale. We need to ask some musician which scale it is. Maybe it's C. Usually it's in C. Окей, так мы начнем дальше. 10-11 тоже. Мы начнем новую тему. Ну, 10-ю основу и 11-ю. Начнем. Okay, so we'll start also the 10th and the 11th. So they are connected. היסוד העשירי, כי הוא השם יתברך, יודע מעשיהם של בני אדם, ואינו מעלים אינו מהם, לא כדעת מי שאמר, עזב השם את הארץ. So Rambam exists in this context of Greek philosophy, and within the Greek philosophy, Aristo thought that God is very pure and immanent and совершенный, ideal, and therefore God have no interest in something that's happening on earth, so he's disconnected from the world, and he responds to it and saying it's not like it, but Hashem is very interested in what's happening in this world, and he proves it with the quotes from Tanakh. גדול העצה ורב עלייה, אשר עיניך פקוחות על כל דרכי בני אדם. The eyes of God are open towards the paths of human beings. And also from the book Bereshit, before the law, we see God sees that human beings behaved in a bad way. This is why he decides to organize destruction of the world, right? ונאמר, זעקת סדום ועמורה כי רבה, and also the story of Sdom and Amorah. God decides to destroy this city because it's full of sin. So this is also tells about this idea that God monitors what's happening in this world, and sometimes he decides to interfere and to change something. So this is the tense, and the main topic would be the 11th. We will learn it also for the next time. So we'll start the 11th today. Ki Hashem. So the 11th is continuation from the previous, because God interested in what's happening. Ki hu Hashem noten sachar lemי שעושה מצוות התורה. That Hashem gives reward for the person that performs mitzvot, v'yanish, and also punish for someone that trespasses the law of Torah. This is the introduction. And what is the reward? The biggest reward is Olam haba. Olam haba, we need to discuss what it is, so we will discuss it soon. V'onesh hachazak, and the biggest onesh punishment is karet. So what is karet? We also need to discuss. Cut from something. So the question is from what? Karet. There is a verb lerachrit. Lerachrit means to destroy.
from the Amsal, something like this.
Что? From Am Israel. It is a good explanation. It is very good explanation. The question is, what is Am Israel? Yes, so we could explain it when we learn the Torah and we give our explanation. We could offer this explanation. So there is a society, and this person should be isolated from society, so he doesn't have resources from the society, doesn't have any help, and therefore he dies out of resources.
Wow, I don't think in this way, but it's very good this way.
It's very simple explanation.
Yeah, but it's
And this punishment exists also today in a natural way, how society works. And someone asked me once, what is the punishment if someone doesn't observe Shabbat, for example? So I answered, if someone doesn't observe Shabbat, so he doesn't part of society which observes Shabbat, so this society doesn't help him, so this is his punishment, right?
I had one think about something about spiritual death.
I don't like this saying,
Because
spiritual death. The death of the spirit. You mean the death of the soul, the destruction of the soul. So this is the Rambam explanation. Yes, we will learn it now. So we will learn it before. So he explained it before, and we didn't learn it, so we will go backwards. So where we find this, the source for this idea that God gives punishment and gives reward in the book of Shmot. It is connected with the story of the golden calf. Ударилась подбородочком. Вата. Больно. Что она говорит? Просто, может быть, ты с ней поговоришь об этом.
Но сейчас момент проживания эмоций. Почему нужно говорить? Когда больно, человек не может говорить.
Нужно ему дать обезбол.
Нужно только слушать.
Дай ему обезбол.
Нужно, чтобы полностью вся боль сначала вышла. Ты реально могла боль находить, а потом...
Okay, so the story about the golden calf. After this story, God wanted to destroy the whole nation, and Moses said, so if you would forgive them their sin, it would be good, and if you don't, please destroy me. And the answer from God was, someone that sinned, I would destroy him. So we see that God knows who have sinned and who have not sinned, because Moses was not sinned. So God answering, I would destroy only that one that have sinned. And also we see this principle that who have sinned, God would punish him. So what is Olam haba and what is Karet? This is the question. Okay, so Rambam explains it in a very long way, because it's hard to explain what is Olam haba, because it's something that is not physical condition, and we don't have this type of, or we lack this type of experience which is not physical, so it's hard to explain what it is. So I will read his explanation. And this also style, maybe you're familiar with Arabic fairy tales, Eastern fairy tales? And their style is have some repetitive elements in it, and also the way how he writes is similar So a lot of synonyms, and he using a lot of numbers. So this idea is we can see several ideas in it, and 1, 2, 3. This stuff. So he started with the mashal proverb example. So, for example, if we have a blind person, so blind person doesn't understand what is color, and also the person that cannot hear, he doesn't understand what is sound. So the same way, we as physical beings, we cannot understand what is the soul's what pleasure. What is the pleasure of soul? The pleasure for soul. And also another example. So the dagim is fish. Fish are in the water, so they doesn't understand what is fire. And the same way, we're in this physical world. It's hard for us to understand how works spiritual world and how beautiful it is. So we have only physical joy in this world. So what pleasure we have in this world? Only material pleasure. So there is сколько есть органов чувств? 5. 5 senses. 5 senses. When we touch something, when we smell, when we eat, when we see, and the 5th, when we hear. So this is the question of classification. What is considered physical? So today, science, everything is physical. The smell is physical. The sound is physical. The light is physical, right? So everything is physical. אלא הוא אצלנו בלי מצוי ואין אנחנו מכירים אותו ולא נשיג אותו בתחילת המחשבה אלא אחר חקירה גדולה. So we cannot understand what is this pleasure for the soul, but only if we will learn a lot about it, only then we can understand what it is. וראוי להיות כן, and it's understandable because we are in the physical world. ולפיכך אין אנו מסיקים על אותה... So what is the distinction between the physical and non-physical? So physical are ends and non-physical endless. ואין ביניהם ואין בלתיהם. So we cannot compare these two types of joy, and it's not even close. But when we're talking about spiritual beings like angels, for example, it's hard to say, we cannot say that they doesn't have a joy, but they have joy, and very big joy, because they are closer to God than we are, and they understand, today I would say, they feel God more than us, and therefore they receive enormous joy. But this joy is not like the joy of the body, and they don't feel the God with our 5 senses. וכמו כן, אנחנו כשנזדכך ממנו ויעלה לאותו מעלה אחר מותנו. And we also, after we became pure, after we die, we don't have a body that limits us, and our soul also could not receive pleasures of this world, and not even interested in it. So we are closer to the angels after our soul is disconnected from the body, and he brings very beautiful example with the king. So king have very important questions to deal with. So he needs to conquer this country to increase his power. But if, for example, the king would like to go back to his town when he grow up, to his yard, to play football with the kids. So it would be considered inappropriate, and it would not be interested for the king, right? So this is the same for the soul. So the soul, after he disconnects from the body, the soul is not interested in primitive feelings to eat, for example, right? So he brings a lot of philosophy here. So the physical joy is very primitive, and the joy of the soul is very pure. For example, I'm looking for it. And he brings a very good example, even in our world, of the joy which are non-physical joy. It's about the status, kavod, honor. So we see that a lot of people could work very hard to receive honor. Honor, почет. So today we have social media. So people work every day. They post pictures. They write stories. And they want to attract attention to them. And it's not that primitive joy as when we eat. It's not physical joy, right? And another example, which are not that common today, but in the Eastern world, ancient Eastern world, it was more common. It's about nekama. Nekama is vendetta, revenge. So, for example, if I would have an enemy and I want to revenge him, and this pleasure of revenge is also not physical pleasure, right? It's connected to honor, right? So I am above other person, so this is the same idea. I'm above him, right? Above, я выше другого. То есть так же, как когда я получаю почет, я выше другого, и это удовольствие не физическое. Также, когда я мщу, тоже получается, он слабый, я сильный, я выше его. То же самое, да? Это тоже не физическое удовольствие, правильно? Месть. Я искал сегодня фильм. I was looking for this movie. V is for Vendetta, but I didn't saw it today. Maybe next time. You know this movie? Oh, very good. It's about freedom. Natalie Portman, our Jewish actress.
And it's like a beautiful movie. Yes, like with big story. And
it's some special setting.
Yes, it's a genre like
Renaissance, Europe.
About anti-utopia, anti-utopia. It's like George Orwell yes.
So when everyone is slaves of someone and then wants to, so it's classic plot.
It's like a fantasy world, like this.
And also another example, which is negative example, which hurt. So also there is a physical hurt and mental hurt, I could say. So we see a lot of person and they mitrachkim. They saying we could not allow ourselves to receive this physical pleasure because if we would do it, we would receive herpa, shame, right? So we can see, for example, when it's hot, so still everyone wearing clothes, even if it's hot, and people afraid to get off the clothes because then they would be ashamed, right? So this feeling of being ashamed, it's not a physical feeling, but it's psychological.
Yeah, it's like a human being.
So this is an example of the pain, which are not physical pain, but spiritual pain.
Social, spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you, please, no social, it complicates everything. All if Shem Vakesh Yelo Shem Tov, Shem Tov. And also some person that wants, so it's the same as honor. Also he trying to be in a beautiful outfit in front of the public, even if it's not comfortable, because he wants this good reputation. So this is also the example of pleasure which are not physical. So now he comes to Olam above from all these examples. So even if in our world we see that people sometimes prefer spiritual over physical, קל וחומר, тем более. So in the world to come, it is even more when our souls are more closer to God. And this ta'anug, this joy, when we are feeling closer to God, we could not separate it to parts. We could not explain what it is, and we cannot even explain it with the proverb, with the example. אלא כמו שאמר הנביא, בעיניו גדולת הטוב ההוא מעלתו, אמר, מערב תונך אשר צפנת ליראיך. So the prophet says, how big is your good that you tzafanta, that it is hidden for someone that's afraid from you. So it means the righteous man. So the good that is hidden for the righteous man is very big, but what it is, it's not explained by prophet. So it's hard to talk about it. And also the sages talked about it only. So mainly they talked what is not about. And there is a list that Rambam quotes from the Talmud, Olam haba, and the Olam haba. The next world, there is no food, and there is no drink, velo rechitza, and no bathroom, velo sicha. Sicha is when we put cream on our skin, so it's also a type of physical joy. There is no velo tashmish, sexual relationships, also no. Ela, but what is left for us to do? Ela tzadikim yoshvim v'torotechem b'roshehem v'ne'anim b'yiziv hashchina. So tzadikim, the righteous ones are present in this world. V'torotechem b'roshehem. He will explain what it means. So they have some lavrovый венок. Как сказать lavrovый венок? So Romans have this branch of leaves here. You know, so this is called atara, and this is the symbol of honor or importance. And the righteous man, they receive in pleasure from the light of God. So this is the world of come, the Olam haba, how it's prescribed in Talmud. And now Rambam explains these metaphors. What means this atara? Венок.
Like a circle.
You can bring, for example, flowers and make also like it from flowers, right? So how you call this? Any language that you're familiar with.
It's a kind of crown.
Yes, I don't like to use the word crown because crown is keter,
Yeah.
and atara is not keter. And also, krans?
So you can make a krans out of flowers and hang it on the door.
Yes, and like Christians have this custom on Weihnacht. It's also krans, right?
Интересно, слово венок.
Рождество. Christmas, Weihnacht,
Yeah.
Sylvester.
Yes.
So it's krans? It's called krans.
Also.
Oh, so Romans used to put it on their head.
Yeah, it's called seeded krans also. So a conqueror, when he came home, and he was
Yes.
Siegeskrans.
So I guess at Olympic Games they also have this, right? So later they used to put medal on it, and the crowns is something secondary. But I guess initially it was mainly the crowns. Лавровый венок.
Oh, I think maybe it's familiar with crown.
Yes, the idea of crown comes from it, right? But the Romans, the Greeks, they have democracy, as far as I know. They didn't have the king, so it's not crown of the king.
Maybe it's also about the Zeus, вот это все.
Конечно, конечно.
Mythology, yes. Maybe there are.
Their gods maybe also had it.
Yes.
So it's a symbol of importance. So what it means, these crowns that they have on their head, the righteous men, ישרות הנפש בקיום מושכל להם. הוא הבורא יתברך, ויוד הוא רוצה לומר המושכל והוא דבר אחד. So it's the metaphor to explain that they are connected with the God. So this is something above that's connected to them. So this is the idea. ואמרו נהנים מזיו השכינה, רצוני לומר שאתה נשמות מתנגו מה שמשיגות, and which pleasure they receives, because they understand and therefore they feel connected to God like the angels. הנה כי הטובה התכלית האחרון. So we see that our goal is to come to this society of angels and be honored with it and be on this level, and our soul would exist כמו שביארנו עד אין סוף בקיום הדברה יתברך שהוא סיבת קיומה. So like the God exists forever, so our soul, when it's connected to God, also could exist forever. So this is Olam haba, basically.
Okay.
And this is the good that we're expecting. Oh, микрофончик. Patin. Asher ein tov lakish lo. So this is the good that we cannot compare it to anything else. Ve'ein ta'anug sheidme lo. And there is no pleasure that is somehow close to it. כי איך ידמה התמיד אשר אין לו סוף וכס בדבר, we ending soon. כי איך ידמה התמיד אשר אין לו סוף וכס בדבר הנפסק. Because something that is endless, we cannot compare it to something limited. And he quotes from the Talmud, למען ייטב לך ואהבת ימים לעולם שכולו ארוך. So this is the reward. I guess this is the reward for honoring your parents. The Torah says that you should receive good and you should live for a long time. So simple understanding, you should live for a long time in this world, but the oral Torah explains you should live for a long time, Olam shekulo aroch, in the world which exists for a long time, so meaning the world to come. So this is Olam haba, and what is karet, and the biggest bad thing and the biggest punishment is that the soul is destroyed and not exists and not live, doesn't have a continuation, and this is called karet. And the Rambam proves his point from Talmud. He karet b'olam hazeh, ti karet b'olam haba. Sometimes in the written Torah, the verb is doubled. He karet, ti karet. So this is the grammar of written Torah, and the sages make in drasha. He karet b'olam hazeh. So the person is destroyed in this world, ti karet, and also b'olam haba, in the world to come. ונאמר, והייתה נפש, and another verse, והייתה נפש אדוני צורה בצור החיים. This is about the King David. So the soul of my Lord would be connected to the source of life. Someone said it about David, some woman, I don't remember her name. הנה כל מה שבחר והרגיל בתענוגי הגוף, ומעש באמת והרע ושקר, ניחר במתו המעלה וישאר חומר נחקר. So someone that wants the physical pleasure above the truths above the spiritual pleasure. And if person loves sheker, как сказать sheker? Ложь, lie, nichat meotam ela. So he disconnects from this next level, and he is only physical body, which would be destroyed eventually. So we almost finished. And the prophet already said that the world of the next world, we cannot feel it in our five feelings, physical feelings, because it said Olam haba. Because it said Ein lo rata Elohim zolotecha. No one saw it except you, God alone. This is the words of prophet. ואמרו, כל הנביאים כולם לא נתנבאו על ימות המשיח, אבל העולם הבא, אין לא ראתה אלוהים זולתך. Also in Talmud, in Masechet Brachot said that all the prophets talked about the times of Mashiach, which we will learn also what is it, but about Olam haba, Mashiach. But Olam haba, no one saw what is this exactly. We don't know what it is.
The new idea about Olam haba. Maybe it's about when person can have
satisfaction
with all his soul desires, like about удовлетворение душевных потребностей, когда человек чувствует себя очень удовлетворенным.
Нужно объяснить, что такое душевные потребности.
It's about love,
Yeah, this is a good idea about love. So this is a kind of where that he doesn't talk about love. He could say that in this world we have love, so the love is like Olam haba. It's interesting that he doesn't say it. Рамбам, да, это интересно, что Рамбам не приводит пример любовь, например. Он мог бы сказать, что любовь это как Olam haba, да? It's a big topic about European love and East love. So in the East they have more physical understanding about love, and also they have a lot of wives, right? So we have only one wife, so the concept of love is a little different between East and West. So in the East, love is more erotical something, right? And in the West, we have this romantic idea.
And maybe this topic of love is very big.
Yes.
If если бы он это привел, это было бы очень,
он долго пишет, это не проблема.
You're talking about pure love, so not physical love.
Yes, and I'm либо осторожно. Это точно. Хорошо.
Не наше.
Закрыла, да, молодец. Она очень хорошо понимает. She understands very good, like yours and ты можешь спросить.
She understands not ours. Ours or not ours?
Можешь спросить у тети, можно посмотреть? Она тебе может разрешить.
Meine, keine, nicht meine.
Нужно сначала спрашивать. Да. Вот видишь, что это тебе разрешает? Тогда можно, когда разрешила, можно. Yes, and love is in big level. It's about calm.
Calm?
Calm, yes. Calm.
Calm is about wisdom.
Wisdom, I think.
Ну смотри, Роза, он, что, мы сейчас будем тему любви учить. Yes, Rambam said have this. We have mitzvah to love the other person. We have mitzvah to love ger, and we have mitzvah to love God. This everything is exists. But what is love? We need to learn how he explained it.
It's love like shalom.
So, for example, we could check how he explains the love towards God, and we can understand his understanding of love. Foundation of the Torah, second chapter. So we have a commandment to love God. So what is the path to love God? When the person thinks about what God did and what he created, how incredible and big it is, and when the person sees the wisdom of God in the creation, which are beyond our understanding, and it's endless wisdom, so immediately the person loves, and praises, and talks about how big it is, and he have very big tava, страсть, passion, to know Hashem Agadol, the big name of the God. David, like the King David said, so my soul is thirsty towards God, which is the living God. And when the person thinks about these things, so he feels fear, and understands that the human being is something small, something dark, and his mind is limited. If we compare ourselves to the God, which is perfect and ideal and understands and knows everything, like the King David wrote in his 8th poem, when I see your sky, what you did with your fingers, I understand that the person is not worth to remember him, the human being. And so this is the explanation, that love here, it means this moment of understanding that someone else is bigger than me, right? So it's more like admire. Ты поняла? Он говорит, что чтобы исполнить заповедь любить Всевышнего, нужно вдуматься в то, как он создал этот мир, какая у него мудрость великая, и тогда человек начинает восхвалять Всевышнего и жаждет познать Всевышнего. И вот это желание приблизиться, соединиться, это и есть любовь. Да?
Это очень-очень здорово. И было бы хорошо это как-то запомнить, как-то, может быть, поговорить об этом еще, когда мы будем
делать твою лекцию.
Путешествия. Потому что путешествия...
Когда мы будем организовать путешествия? Trips.
Trips and discover the world. It's very good tool, like a key of understanding the wisdom of Hashem. Because Hashem, he...
Hashem. Да, мы уже почти закончили, Хамонечка. Мы заканчиваем. Давай закончим трансляцию, да? Завтра в 7:40. Гаях. Гаях.